Now new fears those North Korean hackers could soon target the U.S. with a devastating attack.
They want very much to have the capability to shut down our power grids, our utility systems, our banking, our air traffic control.
Ever-increasing tensions between the United States and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The U.S. is preparing for yet another round of joint military exercises with the Republic of Korea in the south. This time, the U.S. plans to send a nuclear-powered submarine armed with 154 Tomahawk missiles to the peninsula. That's according to a South Korean media outlet. Reports say the USS Michigan is slated to arrive at the port city of Busan in South Korea this weekend. By next week, the submarine will reportedly conduct joint military drills with the USS Ronald Reagan, a U.S. aircraft carrier, simulating all-out war against the North.
Kim Jong-un has targeted the U.S. power grid with cyber attacks against multiple electric companies, trying to break in with emails containing malware, according to a private report by the cybersecurity firm FireEye.
They have the capability not only to infiltrate, but potentially to destroy data and systems.
North Korea already attacked Sony 3 years ago, revenge for a Hollywood movie mocking Kim Jong-un. Now experts warn they are developing the same techniques to attack broad sectors of the U.S. economy.
One of the things that worries us a great deal is the ability of the North Koreans to strike here in the heartland, particularly at the financial sector.
Defense officials in South Korea say they believe special forces for the Korean People's Army conducted training exercises to practice infiltrating the South Korean U.S. Combined Forces Command by paraglider.
Images released by North Korean state media show its modernized commando units participating in recent exercises. They drop off from AN-2 biplanes at low altitudes.
The biplanes fly at low altitudes while paratroopers jump off the plane like hailstones.
The AN-2 transport aircraft, developed by the former Soviet Union in 1947 for crop dusting purposes, have also been on display in Pyongyang's annual military drills. The decades-old AN-2 have been described by a U.S. media outlet as the North's most dangerous weapons, as they have an incredibly low radar profile. They are made largely of wood and canvas, making them difficult to detect using conventional radar, effectively giving them a limited degree of stealth. While it's crucial for South Korea to be able to detect enemy movements at an early stage, Seoul's military does not yet have a clear strategy to counter low-altitude infiltration by these biplanes.
A South Korean lawmaker also accused the DPRK of deploying hackers to steal highly classified military documents, including details of a, quote, decapitation strike against the North. In other words, a plan by South Korea designed to remove North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. All this comes as the Workers' Party of Korea marked its 72nd anniversary in the North. With President Trump repeatedly threatening to destroy North Korea, Britain has dived into the mix and is currently drawing up battle plans to help the U.S. if a war with North Korea becomes reality. With the latest, I'm joined now by RT's Alex Mihailovich in Toronto. Alex, what exactly are we hearing from the UK when it comes to North Korea?
Well, it looks like the UK is taking things seriously. They know full well that if the U.S. jumps into a war with North Korea, they might be one of the first ones asked to come along for the ride. And just thinking about that, the fact is that these guys have started writing up plans on how they would help the United States in a war against North Korea. Now, we know the Brits, historically speaking, have always had a pretty incredible Navy, and they still do to this day. And what they are considering and doing is adding to their arsenal with the HMS Queen Elizabeth. Now, here we got some stats on this big boat. This is an aircraft carrier, and it's brand new. It's not supposed to be put into commission until 2020. It's worth about $3.9 billion. The ship has 3,000 separate compartments, 471 cabins, 1,600 bunks, and it can hold up to 36 F-35B stealth fighter jets. That's a lot of planes with a lot of firepower.
This defector tells NBC News the regime has embedded 6,000 cyber warriors in China, South Korea, and other neighboring countries.
Today, Army Chief General Mark Milley said Defense Secretary Jim Mattis's remarks yesterday to a large Army conference telling soldiers that they needed to be ready when it comes to North Korea was, quote, not so subtle guidance from the Defense Secretary to the troops.
It has documented cyber attacks against South Korea's military, its power plants, even aviation, all appearing to come from North Korea.
And people ask, are we going to go to war with North Korea? I think we are already at war with North Korea. Not only are we on a word war between the two leaders, continuing to threaten each other with nuclear weapons that could kill hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, but also there's probably a cyber war going on. There's no doubt that North Korea has been escalating its cyber warfare against various countries, and my guess is that the U.S. is using similar type tactics against North Korea.
Mattis also issued a veiled warning suggesting soldiers and Americans alike read the classic history of the last Korean War, which cost 2 million lives. On the Defense Secretary's reading list, T.R. Fehrenbach's This Kind of War. In it, the fighting is told from the perspective of the small units that fought during the 3-year war. It also concludes that an enemy like North Korea can only be defeated on the ground, which will inevitably be very costly in terms of lost lives. Perhaps that's why Mattis is mentioning it now, Shep.
Jennifer, what more do we know about these documents that the hackers reportedly stole?
Well, the South Korean official news agency says the plans include 235 gigabytes of data and were stolen last September. They include joint war plans drawn up by the Pentagon and Seoul. The cyber hack targeted South Korean military computers. That's how they got in. If North Korea did obtain war plans, one contingency includes the removal of Kim Jong-un from power. Those plans, however, have been rewritten since the Trump administration took over. It's important to remember that under a mutual defense treaty that was signed by the U.S. and South Korea, if war breaks out, the U.S. military takes control of South Korean troops.
Secretary Mattis told the Army to stand ready in case diplomacy fails.
It is right now a diplomatically led, economic sanction buttressed effort to try to turn North Korea off this path. Now, what does the future hold? Neither you nor I can say. So there's one thing the U.S. Army can do, and that is you have got to be ready to ensure that we have military options that our president can employ if needed.
Joining me right now is the Fox News military analyst, General Jack Keane. General, wow, that was some frightening comments there. The threat of a nuclear attack from North Korea, especially concerning in the Pacific. According to Hawaii News Now, the University of Hawaii recently sent students an email with an ominous headline. It said, in the event of a nuclear attack, it said in part, quote, in light of concerns about North Korea missile tests, state and federal agencies are providing information about nuclear threats and what to do in the unlikely event of a nuclear attack and radiation emergency. General Keane, your thoughts on this? How frightened should we be about this potential?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's obvious that the people who are living out in the Pacific that clearly are in range of the missiles that North Korea has right now and has already demonstrated that. I'm talking about Japan, Hawaii, Guam. There's a heightened awareness, certainly, in that part of the world, and understandably so.
They have shown the ability to detonate fairly significant nuclear weapons. They have decent missile technology. It's not certainly clear whether or not that technology would allow a nuclear weapon to actually survive coming in the atmosphere from an intercontinental ballistic missile, but you just have to assume that is the case at this point. So we are now looking at war of words between two nuclear weapon states, in which the UN has just passed a treaty saying nuclear weapons should be illegal because of the humanitarian consequences of the use of nuclear weapons, which most of us can't even imagine. But we are talking about millions of deaths and the possibility of pieces of land not being able to use for long periods of time.
Do you think our Army is ready? I mean, General Keane, you and I have had this discussion before in terms of the readiness of the U.S. Navy, the fact that our military has been depleted. If push came to shove and we had to send military in there, Are we ready?
We will be challenged. There'll be no doubt about it. We've been talking about this for some time now, about the readiness rate of our airplanes. They're at 40, 50, 60%, depending on the service. We've seen what's happening with our ships being deployed so much that they can't even avoid a major tanker at night in open sea. And we know for a fact that the Army has come forward this year and said that they only had 3 Army brigades that were ready now. In other words, combat ready to go to war. So, yeah, we have problems. It doesn't mean we couldn't win a war against North Korea. We could. We don't want to have to fight that war. What that would mean is North Korea would invade, we would stop that invasion with the South Korean military, and then we would conduct a counteroffensive with air power and take down the North Korean regime. That would produce lots of casualties, lots of civilian casualties, something we want to avoid. But Mattis clearly is sending a signal to the Army leadership who are all in attendance at this Army convention, and also publicly, that, listen, we don't want this option, but we are prepared to execute it.
Right.